So, globalist, eugenicist, warmonger, and the creator, if not the epitome of the nanny state slave system, also pretty much the worst authoritarian that exists, has decided that he is throwing his billionaire hat into the 2020 presidential election. And yes, we of course are talking about the 8th richest person in the United States right now, Michael Bloomberg, who previously was the mayor of New York City for over 3 terms, one of which he personally had me arrested in, which I will explain why and how at the end of this video. But more specifically, we are going to be looking at the real creature that is Michael Bloomberg, that of course the mainstream media is totally ignoring, along with his 12-year record of being mayor of New York City and making it the crap hole that it totally is right now. We're going to do that plus a lot more in this video, which is sponsored not by billionaires, not by special interests, not by governments, not by multinational corporations or any divisive buttholes, but you, the people who support us by simply buying a shirt, sticker, a hat. It doesn't matter. They make great gifts, and your support is more crucial than ever, since to offset a lot of our videos being demonetized, we have demonetized t-shirts. So sincerely, thank you everyone who supports us through this way. Now, of course, there's a lot of news and a lot of rumors specifically around Michael Bloomberg, who is actively preparing to enter the 2020 presidential election by officially registering himself as a candidate in Alabama, where the deadline to register as a presidential candidate for the 2020 elections is coming up very quickly. And this is allegedly because of worries about Joe Biden's campaign's struggles in this current election. And overall, this announcement is getting mixed reviews in the press. Interestingly enough, though, there hasn't been that much pushback against Bloomberg, especially from the establishment and mainstream media, as there is with current candidates like Tulsi Gabbard that are endlessly attacked about supposedly being groomed by the Russians to interfere in the Democratic presidential elections, which very interestingly, there's very little of that chatter for Michael Bloomberg, who is very obviously doing so. And you might ask yourself, why is that happening? Well, it's pretty clear. Bloomberg is, quote, in the club. He is the epitome of the establishment, is very well connected to many powerful individuals and has been colluding with them. His wealth and influence is very vast, and he is even seen pictured here with Jeffrey Epstein's groomer and pimp, Ghislaine Maxwell, who of course he's connected to. He's connected to a lot of establishment figures, even participating in a top secret billionaire meeting with the likes of Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, David Rockefeller, George Soros, Ted Turner, Oprah, and many other influential people to come together to discuss, quote, population control. I'm not kidding you. This should be an issue of concern for everyone, especially if they understand the bigger agenda behind the debunked theory of population control, which is really eugenics, which is really authoritarianism. But again, the mainstream media, this is how they classified them. They said they're called the Good Club, and they, quote, want to save the world. Because yes, billionaires colluding away from the press and public so no one knows what they're doing always have your best interest at heart. You know, that's why they do everything in the shadows. That's why they do everything secretly, so you don't find out how great they are towards you. Yeah. Right? No, you dummy. And I can't believe the gall of some of the media and their willful ignorance. That just shows you how completely paid off they are by special interests. Because again, anytime these individuals decide that they're doing anything for the benefit of not themselves, anytime they're doing any kind of charity or really just essentially, let's call it what it is, tax evasion. Anytime they're committing tax evasion by moving their funds to another location or allegedly giving it out to other institutions and doing charity to avoid taxes, they make sure the world knows about it. They hire the best PR companies. They have their best articles written about it. People know about their, quote, philanthropy. So, of course, those things are very public, so you could only imagine what these people discuss in secret that they do not want you to know. Other news organizations like the Wall Street Journal characterized this meeting as a way to, quote, shrink the world's population. And excuse me for being a little bit of a cynical here and skeptical here, but when they're planning to cap the global population at 8.3 billion, 1 billion fewer than currently projected, and at the same time support war, like Bloomberg did supporting the Iraq war, you have to start asking yourself some questions here about what they're really up to. One of the guests allegedly said anonymously that, quote, they wanted to speak rich to rich without worrying anything they said would end up in the newspapers, painting them as an alternative world government. Ted Turner, who was a part of the meetings, even once proposed cutting down the world population to 250 million people, a 95% decrease, which of course I actually confronted him on. Saying you wanted to reduce the population to 95% extermination. You said you want a one-child policy, but you have 5 kids. Doesn't make any sense.
The youngest one is 40 years old.
All right, but understand.
And the world population then was 3 million.
But that's what the Nazis did with eugenics. And again, you can keep watching that video, but again, the irony here is very rich with him being extremely rich and having 5 kids of his own. Again, you see a lot of these establishment types always preach certain virtues, but again, never follow them themselves. And the fact that a lot of these billionaires do support the war state, like Mayor Bloomberg, who, by the way, endorsed Bush during the 2004 presidential election and essentially supported a war that had extremely disastrous circumstances for everyone involved. And again, with Bloomberg, we're seeing the complete realignment of the polls with, of course, a strong sense for militarism that we have seen endorsed by many people on the left, which is extremely shocking since this is the complete opposite point of view that they had just a few years ago. But Bloomberg is the perfect epitome of it, even describing the New York City Police Department as his own personal army, bragging about the militaristic capabilities which during his reign brutalized a large number of protesters and essentially became the #1 most militarized police force in this country. And with his own big personal army, he, of course, went after people for the horrible crime of jaywalking and also for having and consuming big sodas, as he essentially pushed for and passed a law temporarily because it was deemed unconstitutional that New Yorkers couldn't be responsible for themselves, and the state intervened when it came to having sodas that were large. Yes, Bloomberg banned big sodas. Luckily, a court with some rational common sense knew that it wasn't the place of the government to decide what people can and cannot drink or put in their bodies. I love how Bloomberg sometimes pushes for and supports abortions, quote, reproductive rights, saying my body, my choice, but in his twisted globalistic mentality doesn't trust individuals and needs the state to intervene to tell people how much soda they can and cannot drink. He also stood behind and set in stone the stop and frisk policy, which again is absolutely illegal, unconstitutional, and violates America's basic rights to the 4th Amendment, where you can't have cops run up on you and just put their hands down your pants. But to Bloomberg, this was, quote, a great way for his, quote, army to be used and utilized in the streets of New York City, while at the same time classifying many first responders, the people who volunteered at the fire department, the police department, the U.S. military, and also just random construction worker volunteers, came down to Ground Zero after 9/11 and assisted with the effort to clean up the debris after the 9/11 attacks, which of course the government actually tested and found out that the air quality was absolutely horrendous and very dangerous for everyone to be around, which led to the government lying to its citizenry The media bought those lies, didn't dare to investigate it, and told everyone the air was safe to breathe, even though the Twin Towers are filled with asbestos, which, again, anyone with just a little bit of common sense back then knew. But because of that, many first responders were sick, and Bloomberg just denied that fact for years, even going as far as to calling one of the police officers that a bill that me and my friends, specifically the John Field organization, were putting together in order to make sure that people got their basic health benefits that were guaranteed to them by the city. But Bloomberg, again, time and time again, undercut those efforts, denying very basic medical attention, and essentially leading to the death of many first responders that died because they couldn't pay for the medical coverage that was promised to them by the city. Having some of my friends and people that I knew pass away and be very sick and ill, and having the city and Bloomberg just deny the fact that this was even happening was extremely frustrating. This is when we took the situation in our own hands and decided to confront Mayor Michael Bloomberg on almost every public event, radio show, and public appearance that he made, even once cornering him in the New York City subway station, where, of course, he was cornered and had to, actually deal with the people of New York City confronting him on his absolute lunacy. This, of course, created a situation where Bloomberg was not very happy with this, since everywhere he went, he was always confronted about screwing over the 9/11 first responders, and he also wanted to run for mayor of New York City for a third unprecedented term, which was, of course, illegal, which he jerry-rigged a special proposition to make sure that he could do so. And after doing so, he reached out to the John Feelgood Foundation and told them, if we are changed, if Luke Rudowski leave us alone during my mayoral run, during my third very contested election, I will make sure to support the Zadroga bill. I will make sure to support 9/11 first responders. And then I got a phone call from 9/11 first responders saying that they received this phone call from the mayor saying, hey, everything is on the line here if you just stop hassling and confronting the mayor. I told my first responder friend that he was going to backstab them, but there's a small chance and a small window that a lot of the people we know may get actual help, may actually not suffer as much, may not die as quickly. And of course, I listened to the first responder that specifically asked me to do this as a favor to him, and I did. And then the election happens. Bloomberg wins. Many instances I saw the mayor at public events, just kind of stared him down, didn't confront him, kept my end of the bargain. And then when the mayor becomes inaugurated for the third term, he cuts thousands of unemployment benefits for 9/11 first responders. Having that first responder call me back again and say, Luke, he lied to us. Go get him. I went out there to confront the mayor and his third consecutive time in office. And as I got to the event, we were apprehended by, quote, NYPD intelligence that stopped me, told me I couldn't enter the building. I then tried to leave the building. They told me to stop and wait inside. I abided. I was filming. And then 5 minutes later, this NYPD officer came by with, say, about 10 police officers running towards me. And then when he got close to me, took my camera away, started laughing, put my hands behind my back and put handcuffs on me. And he said, Luke, we told you to leave. Why didn't you leave? This is criminal trespassing. And I'm like, wait, I have you on camera. He took away the camera. The camera was confiscated by the NYPD. And then, of course, not given to me until years later with the tape damaged after the court proceedings were done, because it was put in as, quote, evidence. That, of course, they denied me from having. And after a 2-year court battle, the city then just dropped all charges. And then I was finally free to go. So yeah, this is why the news about Mayor Michael Bloomberg should absolutely worry everyone. He's an underhanded, dirty, trickster, billionaire, globalist, nanny state enthusiast authoritarian that absolutely could be the worst possible person to be in charge of anything. Even, I wouldn't trust this man with a 7-Eleven. He would ban all the Slurpees, because again, you can't have sugar now. Probably everyone in the 7-Eleven would be suspected to be a thief. There would be big security guards dressed in army uniforms beating the crap out of you, putting their hands down your pants for even entering the store. And I mean, Bloomberg is an absolute, let's just be honest here, a piece of trash. And everyone, including you, should say no to Nanny Bloomberg. Now, of course, Bloomberg filed, and many times he has entertained these ideas. Many times he has tested these ideas if he should run to be president of the United States. He hasn't gone all in because he is still testing to see the response that he is getting. Make sure he hears your voice by sharing this video with your friends and family members. And once again, thank you for being a part of this independent media broadcast all the way up until this end of the video. Thank you again for purchasing our merchandise and standing with independent media. And because you do, that's why I say, love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on wearechange.org.